Welcome to the STEM Pathways with Rohan Sharma podcast, where we dive into the exciting world of science, technology, engineering, and math. In each episode, we share exciting stories, groundbreaking research, and inspiring interviews with experts and enthusiasts who are pushing the boundaries of innovation. Whether you're a student, a professional, or just curious about how the world works, join us as we explore the endless possibilities of STEM. Let's get started. Today, I'll be interviewing Rishi Bengani, who holds a bachelor's in computer science from Georgia Tech. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good. So to get started, I wanted to ask, when did you choose your major of computer science?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of a funny story. I used to do a lot of robotics in high school, and like one of my like favorite coaches, who like probably is the reason a lot of reason who I am today, he thought I was going to do mechanical engineering, and then it wasn't until I asked for his letter of recommendation, and I kind of just saw that like I think I could like do more with the computer science degree. Like the world is going so much into tech. This is kind of when AI started blowing up. Like back then, we had ChatGPT 3. So everything was kind of like heading towards that direction of like computer science. And I knew that I would probably need that if I wanted to make like, bigger change in the world. So that's kind of why I chose computer science.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of my thought process.
So, what other activities were you involved in high school?
Yeah, I did debate, and then robotics. And I did golf as well. I did golf for 2 years, varsity golf on there. Then I did debate for all 4 years, but I actually dropped in my last year because I spent all my time in robotics. I was on three different robotics teams. So throughout the year, I was like always building some kind of robot. And then the good thing was that like I was right next to like NASA Johnson Space Center. So we had a lot of mentors from there. So we had a lot of ton of resources. We could build some really cool things. And like almost every year we went to Worlds, we gave a run for our money, and it was a lot of fun. And that's a big reason why I think like I kind of started off with mechanical engineering and I was like, wow, like I really like building things. But I think that like going in the future, we just need more like computer science. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for high schoolers trying to figure out what clubs or activities to choose?
Honestly, my advice is just try everything. I think that like you never know what you're really gonna like fall in love with. And this is kind of like I guess a sidetrack, but like once I got to high school, I mean college, I went over like I started doing everything. I did like fencing club, I did a trading club, and then I was trying to join like a dance team. So first I thought I was gonna join like a fusion Bollywood team. That didn't work out. Then I ended up joining like a Garba Ross, which is like a little bit more traditional dance. And I really liked that as well. And I would have not known I liked it if I hadn't tried it out. So I think everybody should just try everything once because, sometimes you think you're in a good spot, but you don't know what else is out there. So you got to keep trying stuff.
So, what was going into Georgia Tech like?
Going to enjoy tech was definitely really scary. So, I'm from Texas. My whole plan was to just go to UT Austin. My sister went to UT Austin. It was like close, but not too close to home, like 3.5 hours. A lot of my friends were going to UT Austin, but it just didn't work out. So then I had to start, mass applying to like other schools. I got into Georgia Tech. I went and visited the campus. I really liked it. And the next thing I was knowing, I was going like 800 miles away from home, going to Georgia Tech. And I had no friends, nobody from Houston. So it was a little scary, but I made a lot of good roommates and then had a lot of good friends. And I think it really helped me grow as a person. And it's something that like if you're thinking about going out of state or you're scared, just like trust the process. There's a lot of people in similar boats out there with you, and it's just a fun time because like everybody in college is trying to like, figure out who they are, figure out what they want to do. Like I thought I had a good idea of what I wanted to do when I got into college, and that kind of got uprooted. But and I started, trying new things and found new things I liked.
Yeah. So, what extracurriculars were you involved in at Georgia Tech?
Yeah, so I went into a little bit. I did like trading club. I did, there's a Garber Ross dance team. One of the bigger ones I really got into my last couple years was this startup organization called Startup Exchange. What we kind of did was we just kind of give, young adults a place to, build things, outside the classroom. And this kind of like also prompted me to try and go, build real world solutions for like real problems. I had two startups throughout college. Both of them were quite successful and had a lot of fun building them. And that's kind of where I spent a lot of my time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what were these startups?
Yeah, so I had one startup. It was called Candor. It was an AI assistant for governments, property managers, HOAs. We just wanted to help anyone with like a constituent leader relationship, ease that process. A lot of times these like local governments, they get like, 300, 400 emails a day like from their constituents just asking them like, "Oh, there's a broken bench. Oh, the light's not working. Oh, there's a pothole." And these people are understaffed. They have like no sort of like AI helping them out. So we just wanted to build them a solution, that could help them just like streamline their entire process. And it actually worked really well. And then the other startup I had was actually Preternatural AI. And it's just something I kind of noticed. There was a whole when that one was building AI infrastructure for like Swift developers, people who make iOS apps and whatnot. There was a ton of people who I had no idea how to start and put AI into their apps. And, Apple's kind of slow when they come out with, their kind of dev kits. So we knew we had some time before they would come out with their own. So we tried to launch a third-party one that people could just honestly drag and drop these, dev kits into their app. And then they could have like, LLM chatbot or some image recognition or some very simple AI features. Yeah.
And did you go to Y Combinator for this?
Yeah, I went to Y Combinator for Preternatural AI. That was a really great experience and it was a lot of fun. I think the what Y Combinator does is it just pushes you to really like believe in yourself, honestly, that any startup can really just take off and have huge impact. And when you go there, you meet all these other smart, bright people. The energy is just like addictive. You're just like you when you run into a roadblock, you just have like all this support behind you that it's like pushing you through it. It's great.
And what was it like getting up in the middle of college to go to California and do that?
It was something. Yeah. I didn't do it full time. I only did it part time because my other co-founder was there full time. So I only had to fly in a couple of times. But it was still really good. Yeah.
So, and are you still working on these startups?
No, I actually exited from both of them. So Preternatural AI was the one that we are doing like AI LM like infrastructure. So once Apple kind of came out with their own dev kits, it became a little hard for us to compete against them. We were kind of just trying to go with there was like a 2 year gap before they came out with anything, so we are just trying to fill that. And the other one I also exited recently just because I wanted to try something new. Yeah.
So, in college, what is the startup field looking like at Georgia Tech? I talked to the provost, Stephen McLaughlin, and then he was the one who actually started the Georgia Tech Startup Society. I'm forgetting the name of it. No, Create X.
CreateX,
Yeah,
yeah. So
he's the one who
CreateX
founded that.
Yeah. So CreateX is like the university-backed program. They have, classes, they have like a startup incubator, kind of like, Y Combinator. Startup Exchange, we kind of just kind of give it more to the Atlanta area. So we have kids from Emory, GSU, other colleges as well that come to our events. We're not completely tied with Georgia Tech. But right now, Georgia Tech is really pushing startup culture. I think in this like most recent YC batch, we were tied for second with Berkeley on having the most like YC founders from college. So right now there is a lot of, motivation, a lot of help on Georgia Tech campus, pushing kids just to try and build something, And a lot of times they don't realize that like it's a lot easier than like people make it out to be, Like we see problems in our daily life all the time, and we're always just like, oh, like we just don't think it can be solved. But really it's just a simple fix, And you just gotta like, put a couple man hours into it, get a couple people to try it out, and before you know it, you might have something. Yeah.
So, what are your plans right now that you've finished college?
Yeah, so right now, I have a job currently lined up as an AI consultant. So I'm actually really much looking forward to that because I feel like there's a lot of big, firms, companies out there that, they just want to jump onto the AI boat. And if they do, it'll just help them out a lot. Like AI is going to make almost everything in our lives like more efficient, better. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to be moving out to New York for that. So gonna be in, I guess I would say like the city in America. A lot of people are gonna say SF. SF's a great city as well, but you just can't find that New York energy anywhere. You just like walk outside, there's a ton of skyscrapers, ton of people. You might walk next to a celebrity and not even know it in New York. That's just the vibe you get from there. So yeah, I'm really much looking forward to it.
And then going back to your graduation, were you one of the speakers?
Yeah, yeah. So I was the commencement speaker, and that was a really big honor and privilege to do. Actually, that was one of my goals really coming into college. So my sister was valedictorian in high school, and obviously, like any sibling rivalry, you always want to like one up your sister. So like even like I had a better GPA than her in high school, but my dad was just like, "You still weren't valedictorian, so like it doesn't count." And I'm like, "Hey, like come on, give me like something, you know?" So when I got to college and I kept going to a lot of my friends' graduations, I noticed they had like a reflection speaker. And I was like, oh, I'm so 100% doing the reflection speaker. I started like literally watching every single one I could find, seeing, why they picked them. I like, Insta DM gram all them like, what was the secret? Like, how'd you get picked? And then when it was my time to graduate, I applied and I had my speech ready and I went in. They seemed to like it. And from that, I got to speak and I got to hang out with the president. They had this like little room where they put all the important people. I was not one of the important people, but I was with important people. So it was kind of fun. And it was a good experience, being able to like go inside, the McGamish Pavilion, the basketball center, and just give that speech for 4 minutes. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people who are going to specifically Georgia Tech for college and how to thrive in that somewhat grueling academic environment?
Honestly, like I think biggest advice is like you're just not alone. Like when you feel like you're struggling or you feel like you're hitting a roadblock, like you're not the only one. I promise you. There's another 20,000 kids there. If you're in CS or if you're in mechanical engineering, if you're in aerospace, there's somebody there who's going through the same thing as you. So you just got to remember you're not alone. And you just gotta be not scared to ask for help. All the professors, they're there to help you, they're not there to like drown you in homework or, scare you to death with all these exams. Like that's not, they want to see you like thrive, but they're going to do that by like pushing you to your limits. And it's completely okay to like ask for help. There's so many times, like there's one time I had this one teacher and I just went to her office hours. She was for like data analytics. At that time, I was like really into sports betting, and I was like struggling with an assignment and I just like went with her to talk with her. Next thing I know, I'm talking to her about betting platforms, and then she's like, I also used to do a lot of sports betting. And I was like, oh, really? Like, why did you stop? She's like, oh, I got banned for being too good. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, I need to find tricks and secrets into getting banned. Next thing I know, she's like giving me this whole playbook on how to beat the sports books. And I was like, this is crazy. I would never known that if I just didn't go and ask and talk to her. They're really friendly, they're really open. So my one piece of advice is just, don't be scared to ask for help and don't be scared that you're the only one. Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you have a job lined up this August, but what is it like in the CS job market right now? As I've heard a lot of things about how competitive it's getting, but what do you think?
I think it's definitely hard. And I think a lot of times people think there's only one right answer. Like you have to get a software engineering job or you have to do one of the FANG companies. Like that's just not true. Like, the good thing about computer science, I think, is that it really teaches you how to be a really good problem solver. And then with computer science degree, you can honestly do anything. You can go out and launch an app on the App Store in less than 6 hours. You can solve a problem. And there's always somewhere that's going to need some software or some like efficiency improvement. You just got to go and find it. Whether that's maybe starting your own startup. I would recommend that when you're in college. Just try and find a problem you're really passionate about and go and solve it. Because honestly, like a lot of times you might end up working for somewhere and you're just like, this problem is stupid. And then you're not going to be able to get behind it. You're not going to be able to work. You're going to be like, work is dumb. But I really think that if you find a real passion, which a lot of times people do find with startups because they find something they're really interested in that they can solve. And basically, what I was trying to say, I kind of went on a rambling streak, was like the job market is a little hard. I think it'll get better, especially, with AI boom. And you just got to adapt your skill set into like, finding where you can fit in. And you have a very like diverse degree that can really be applied anywhere. So you just got to keep looking. Try to find your interest, try to find a problem you have in life, and then just go about it that way. Yeah.
So for my last question, I wanted to ask if you have one piece of advice for someone who's still in high school or early in college wanting to follow a similar career path as you.
A similar career path. I think, well, since I haven't really started my career has kind of been in startups, but I think the biggest thing is just be curious about everything around you. Like sometimes we take for granted like simple things, and We're just like, oh, like it'll get solved by itself. Like, if you see a pothole on the road and you keep running over it over and over and over again, and you're like starting to avoid it, like, why isn't it getting solved? Like, you got to look into that, right? Like, you should question everything around you, right? Whether that be like this homework assignment, like, why am I doing this homework assignment? Like, what do I gain out of it, Or, why do I have this trouble with my roommate? Just like be curious about every single situation like you kind of have. And I think that'll push your thinking to be like out of the box. And that's I think the biggest skill you'll get out of going to college or getting out of high school is just if you're constantly curious, you'll constantly start like picking up on patterns and things around you. Yeah.
All right, then. Thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.